Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Barbara, the General Manager here at Garage Sale Trail. To start, I'm going to do an acknowledgement of country. In the spirit of reconciliation, Garage Sale Trail acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So a huge thank you to all of you for giving up your precious Thursday evening to join us and hear a little bit about Garage Sale Trail. On the line today, there is myself, the General Manager, but we also have Andrew Valder, one of the co-founders with us.
Good evening, all. Thanks for joining us. Lovely to be here.
Excellent. So we've got a half-hour session today. We've got some great questions in from many of you before we kicked off. So we're going to capture those and run you through a little bit of background to what Garage Sale Trail is and how it works. But we totally encourage questions too. There's a lot of you on the line, so we have muted you as much as we would love to hear your dulcet tones. Please do put questions in the chat box as we go. Andrew is going to be chatting with you on there and will also pose those questions to me or answer those questions himself as we go through. So if anything doesn't make sense as we go through, or you want to explore some things in some more detail, let us know. But we'll cover some of the essentials first and then jump into those questions that you shared with us before the session. So let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start and tell you who we are. So you've already met me and Andrew, and you'll see also on screen the other co-founder, Daryl. As you'll see, we like to have fun and we like secondhand. So we run a little not-for-profit social enterprise. We've been around since 2010, and everything we do is really about helping communities and neighbours connect and keep good stuff out of landfill. And everything we do is made possible thanks to the support of some fantastic local, state and territory government partners all around Australia. What is it? So what Garage Sale Trail is, we organise a giant festival of garage sales all across Australia on 2 weekends in November. It's happening this year on the 11th, 12th and 18th and 19th of November. It's totally free to take part. And it's up to individuals how they want to get involved. You can shop, you can sell, you can do one day, or you can do more. And in terms of how it actually works and what we do, so it all kind of kicks off in September. Garage Sale Trail, together with our partners, mostly councils around Australia, work hard from the middle of September to push the message out to people all across Australia through a media campaign and through a comms campaign and various different channels to spread the word about Garage Sale Trail and get people involved. So we run that campaign over 10 weeks. And that then culminates in 2 big activities. So we run a series of free workshops that you can be a part of. We're not going to focus on those so much today, but we will tell you a little bit about them. They're happening in just over a week's time. And then, of course, it culminates in mid-November with those 2 weekends of garage sales around the country. And why do we do it? So there is a Garage Sale Trail is really fun, and we want people to have lots of fun doing it, but there is a serious side to what we do too. And last year, we saw some great impact. So last year, it was around about 300,000 Australians sold or shopped at garage sales around the country. And we had about 15,000 garage sales happening, and that's in every single state and territory. And together, all of those people selling and shopping helped to reuse over 3 million kilograms of items and generated over $4 million for local economies. And important to say, the money raised stays with the seller. It's a free program. It costs you nothing to participate. And the money you make, you decide what you do with. So there are lots of benefits to having a garage sale, but when we talk to our sellers that get involved every year or get involved once, the main reason people do it is to declutter and get rid of stuff. Some people obviously do it to make some money, but there's also great benefits around meeting your neighbours, having fun, and of course, making sure your items find a new home. This is a question we get asked a lot because obviously you can have a garage sale any weekend of the year. So what's different about Garage Sale Trail? So we want to make it easier. So we provide tips and support to help you organize, promote, and plan your sale. You'll be part of something that's national, that's making a really big impact around Australia. And you also benefit from all of that media and marketing that we're running and local councils are running to get the word out. And really all the work we're doing in terms of campaigning and getting the message out is really about getting as many people as possible involved. It's open to everyone. So you might think it's primarily about households, but we actually see lots of community groups and charities do it to fundraise. So we've got heaps of men's sheds on the trail. We've got neighborhood houses opening their doors. Schools do it. Scouts groups do it. Really anyone and everyone can do it. And we encourage anyone and everyone to get involved. And you don't have to do it at home. This is really important. You might think that you have to have a garage or a front garden, and that's not the case. You can, of course, and most people will hold it at home. But we also see people join together with their friends and family and host it at a friend's place or host something together. And there are also, this year particularly, a number of markets and car boot sales you can join. And I'll tell you a bit about how you can join those a little bit later on. But if you don't want to go it alone and you want to sell with people in your community, that's an option in some areas too. When does it happen? So it happens soon. So we've got the workshops I mentioned coming up in just over a week. And then those 2 weekends of November are on the 11th, 12th and 18th and 19th of November. I might take a little pause here, Andrew, and just see if there's anything coming up in the chat that it would be worth us covering at this point.
Well, Babs, so far it's tumbleweeds in the chat. Don't be shy, people.
Okay, do keep the questions coming in if you've got any for us, and we'll happily dig into some more detail.
It's obviously the caliber of your excellent presentation,
Sure,
Babs, answering all the questions.
So it's a real feat of many partners that help us make Garage Sale Trail possible. We're a really tiny team. There's Andrew, myself, and 2 other staff members. So it's quite a small team making quite a big impact. And we couldn't do it without yourselves, all the wonderful people around Australia that sell and shop, as well as all of our partners. So it's really a big thank you to them, particularly all of those fantastic councils, state governments and local and territory partners around Australia who help to make it free for us all. So let's go into a bit of detail about how it works, and then we'll jump into some of the questions that you sent through to us before the session. So hosting a garage sale, how does that actually work, and what do we give you? So the whole program is based around the Garage Sale Trail website. If you want to host a sale, you go online to garagesaletrail.com.au/register. You then complete a short registration form, and I'm going to step you through that so you can see what's involved. Once you've set up your sale, you then get a sale page listing, just like you see for Woodend community sales. So every garage sale has its own page, and it has information about what you're selling, when it is. It's basically it's a bit like we've joked in the office occasionally about it being a dating profile for your garage sale. It's a way that people can get acquainted with who you are and what you're selling so that they come along and see you. Once you've registered, you'll also get access to a whole bunch of free promotional materials and support from us, and we'll send you regular emails with tips, prompting you with things you should be doing at different times. So let's look into the registration. So once you've gone onto that page, we get you to set up an account with us, so just providing some basic contact details. That just means we can keep you up to date with key information about the event. Then you tell us a bit about your sale. And the first thing you tell us is give your sale a name. And that's really important because that's how people will find you on the map. So we really encourage people to give that a little bit of thought. We've got some tips on our website for good sale names to catch people's eye. And then the rest of the registration is really just saying when you're going to have it, what times, and what you're selling. And you don't have to give a lot of detail here. It's just categories of stuff. And any of this information can be edited later. So you can always go and set it up and come back to it later. We do encourage you, if you are setting up a sale, to put a little description in there that just gives a flavor of who you are, the sort of stuff you're selling. The best listings we've seen tend to say something personal about why you're involved, what you're raising money for, or share details about possibly some of the things, maybe the quirkier things you're selling. So once you've stepped through that registration form, and it should take no longer than 5 minutes at most, you'll then go into your, what we call a dashboard. And in here, you can edit your sale at any time. You can delete your sale if things change. And you'll also be able to access a whole bunch of resources that we've created. I think they may be coming up next. Yes, they are. So you'll get things like letterbox slips that you can download and write your details in to letterbox your neighbors. You'll get posters ready-made and directional signage, but also things like social media tiles and things you can use to promote your sale online. And importantly, we've really, if any of you have been involved before, we've really put a bit of extra effort this year into providing better support to our sellers. So you'll see we've done things like provide a checklist and a how-to guide that steps you through what you need to do in the lead up to your sale and gives you some top tips from our many years hosting garage sales. For those that are more into shopping, there is a fantastic national map. And if you do list a garage sale, you don't only get your listing, you also get a spot on our national map. This is the page of our website which is viewed most in the lead up to the weekends, as you can imagine, people clambering over the local sales. So people go along to the map, which is at garagesaletrail.com.au/sales. They stick in their suburb and it will bring up a list of the sales that are happening near them. They can then filter for sales happening on certain dates or selling certain things. And you can also then add them to favorites and receive emails and reminders from us about the sales that are coming up near you. Andrew, we're already at the Q&A, would you believe? And the chat box is blinking, so I'm hopeful we might have a couple of questions to cover. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Oh, the old you're on mute trick.
Yeah.
So the first question is as follows. Can you please explain rules about selling secondhand items in New South Wales? I can jump in here on this one. So there is actually some legislation around the sale of secondhand electrical items, and they do need to be called what's tested and tagged. So for some people, that's a bridge too far. But if you are really gung-ho about selling secondhand electrical goods, the way to get them tested is to get an electrician to test them and to make sure that they're considered safe. There's also some really top-line information available on the New South Wales government website that you'll be able to find if you just search selling secondhand in New South Wales. So I hope that helps. It may not make the task any easier, but that certainly answers the question.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you're feeling uncomfortable about that, plenty of people just don't sell electricals and just focus on other things that are easier to sell. And I believe, Andrew, one of our partners, Men's Sheds, quite a lot of Men's Sheds offer testing and tagging as well. And
I did not know that. Nice.
Yeah.
Another question. Thanks for this one, Amanda. It says, hi there. If we register for 2 consecutive days, but find after day 1 we don't need the second day, is it possible to cancel the second day at short notice? Over to you, Babs, on that one. Right in your sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, you can. So you can log in at any point and edit, delete, change your listing. So you can do it at the click of a button. So anything changes. If it rains on, let's say, the Saturday and you want to move it to the Sunday, you can absolutely do that at the last minute, and immediately your sale listing and the map will be updated so that people know not to visit you on the Saturday and come on the Sunday.
Yeah, and it's a really good question because a lot of people do register for 1 for 2 days or even 4 days over the 2 weekends, and it's definitely something you want to think about if you're not going to do one of the days. Quite actually strongly encourage you to take your listing down, which, as Babs has just explained, is a really simple process to do by editing your sale. But otherwise, you will have people knocking at your door and doing all that kind of stuff. The next question is an interesting question. When selling brand new products, what's the best way to price the items? Well, I guess the first, whilst Garage Sale Trail is absolutely about promoting reuse and secondhand, some people do use the weekends to sell new items, particularly if they're have a small business and they're a crafter or they're an artisan and they're making things. But I mean, it's hard for me to answer this one in the sense of how do you price the items. I guess there's a bit of a spectrum here. There's what is the item worth? Is it priced at a garage sale kind of price point? That's something to bear in mind. Garage sales typically aren't something where you get pay top dollar for a luxury good, we see businesses get involved who clear out stock. So if that's where you fit, then they use something like Garage Sale Trail to clear their stock and price it at garage sale prices, which typically means quite a lot cheaper than what the traditional retail price might be. Have you got any thoughts on that one, Babs?
Yeah, I think that's good. And actually pricing was something that came up a lot in the questions that were posed to us pre the session. So it was one we were going to jump into anyway, and I thought we'd put some nice pictures up. Andrew and I have been talking to quite a lot of sellers over the last week, and all of the sellers, certainly I've spoken to, that have done Garage Sale Trail year on year and been very successful, had the same strategy with pricing, and that was to price to clear. They're very motivated to declutter, so we're going as low as $1 even for items like clothing. So I think it's definitely worth bearing in mind that people expect things to be pretty affordable at garage sales, but equally, if you've got something that's really special, we do encourage people to price that higher and make sure you're comfortable with what you would be selling it for. So I think generally speaking with non-new, the kind of advice is with garage sales, if you're comfortable, price it to clear so you can ship more stuff. And certainly one of the great tips I heard today, actually from a lady I was talking to in Melbourne, was to reduce prices for the final hour. So if your objective is mostly about getting rid of as much stuff as possible, having a discounted final hour or even giving away things in the final hour is a really good tip. And actually, Andrew, I like these price charts, don't you? When you see these at garage sales, they make it really easy to know. It's easier to price as a seller, but it's also great as a shopper.
Yeah, and grouping items by sale price is a tried and tested way to increase your turnover and increase your volume of items sold. So yeah, it's a great one.
Anything else, Avi, in the chat?
Let me see. No, nothing else has come in, Babs. What else have you got there?
I'll jump into the ones that came in through your feedback. So we had some questions about taking payment. So I guess number one, important to reiterate that all the money you make, you keep, or you do what you wish with. So certainly lots of people will fundraise with the takings as well. Cash is still widely expected at garage sales, so we do encourage you to get a float ready in the denominations you'd expect to be changing hands, so definitely some gold coins as well as some notes. We also encourage you to have a think about ways to take payments that are cash free, and we have a partnership this year with PayPal. And they provide a really neat way to take payment by QR code. It doesn't require any equipment, so all you need to have is the PayPal account and to have downloaded the PayPal app. And the QR code on screen will take you to a bit more information about how it works on the PayPal site. So it doesn't need to be PayPal, but at PayPal it's certainly a really great option. So we encourage definitely have some cash for payments and definitely have a think about some cash-free ways to pay as well. because that will help with particularly passing trade. We know lots of people don't carry cash anymore. So if you want to take advantage of people who are just passing your garage sale, definitely worth having a cash-free alternative as well. Andrew, anything you would add on PayPal QR codes or payment methods?
Yeah, I think accepting cashless payments is, again, it's another, along with pricing and grouping items together and or color coding, as Babs was talking about on that previous slide. I think having cashless payments as an option is a lay down misere in terms of increasing your turnover. So, and as Babs mentioned, there's QR code options with PayPal, there's Pay ID, or there's various other forms of payment. But we actually just got our hands on some data today, and the data showed us that 57% of people never or very rarely carry cash with them. So that gives you some insight into the importance of enabling that at a garage sale.
Great bit of data, Andrew. I like that. We also had some questions come in beforehand about group sales. So this was specifically about tips around being involved in some of those bigger events like a car boot or a market, or in fact, organizing that type of an event. So we thought we'd share with you some details around how you can join a group sale near you. So if you are thinking that maybe the better option for you is to be a stallholder at an existing community event, you can head on over to the map, stick in your suburb, and if you use the filter type and select group sales, you'll then bring up all the kind of the bigger sales that are happening in your neighborhood, and look for the ones that have a sell at this sale button. You can click that button and fill out a few details, and then you'll apply to have joined that garage sale. You'll then hear from the organizer. So that's done separate to us. So each of the car boot sales and markets is organized by individuals in the community, some community groups. There's lots of Rotaries, Lions, neighborhood houses. So you'll then liaise directly with that group sale organizer to find out more about that event. If you're wanting to take the plunge and organize a group sale, you can easily set up a group sale on the website, and you can have people apply to join you as a stallholder. And you'll get a bunch of resources, more detailed resources that reflect the fact that there's a little bit more involved in hosting a bigger event like that. So we can absolutely, we'll send you some of these resources following the call. And if any of you are planning on a group sale, feel free to reach out to us and we can give you some more detailed information about and support around that. Andrew, chat looks like it might be hotting up out there. Is there anything to cover before we jump into some of these other questions?
No, I'm answering. I've just asked people how they found out about the session today. So it's kind of interesting to understand the combination of Instagram and email and councils.
Great. There were some questions that were submitted around how to set up and pack down. So again, I thought I would show some examples of other people having garage sales. So in terms of setting up and packing down, we encourage you to do that on the day you're hosting your sale. So set up and pack down each day of your sale. That's really just important to ensure your goods are safe and that they don't get weather affected. In terms of the displaying and setup of your sale, use what you already have. We've seen some really incredibly clever examples of people using things like their Hills hoist to hang garments, or stringing up bits of string and clipping items. Doesn't need to involve, oh, I thought I had more pictures. It doesn't need to involve buying lots of equipment. Just use what you have already in your front garden or in your house. Bring out a table and merchandise it like that. Have you, Andrew, got any other tips on setting up and packing down?
I've got to apologise, Babs. I'm just responding to someone in the chat here, talking about bringing attention to the importance of safety and security and with transactions. Certainly about setting up, I think the most important thing about setting up, it's probably slightly unrelated to this and coming up in a future slide, is remembering to include promotion in your setting up. So a bit of local area marketing, and particularly if you're not in a place that is highly trafficked. But I suspect that's coming up shortly in this deck, Bab, so I won't focus too much on that. I think you covered everything.
No, I think that's a good one to mention, actually, because we haven't zoned in on that too much. We didn't have too many questions about that, but it is a really good point. As part of the keys to success, I guess, is not just listing on the Garage Sale Trail website, but also, as Andrew said, doing some of that local area marketing before your sale. And that might look like letterboxing your neighbors. It might look like sending a text to your friends and family to get them to come down. Highly recommend posting in local buy, sell, swap groups or parents groups. Those sorts of groups are great places to promote your garage sale as well. So really important to do some of that groundwork before, and definitely signage on the day. As Andrew said, particularly if you're in on a quieter location like a cul-de-sac, make sure the sign's out on the main road pointing to you. Because after all, who can resist the law of a garage sale sign? Certainly not me and not Andrew. And the last question we had, and so we're coming to the end of the questions. If you do have questions we haven't covered, or if anything's unclear, now's the time to slip those into the chat box. We finally had a question from someone around what's the difference between areas where a council's involved and where councils aren't involved, which is a great question. So the simple answer is we work with 80 councils around Australia, so lots of councils are on board. Where we work with those councils, there's a lot more promotion, number one. So it's not just us promoting, but also your local council will be busy securing media, promoting on social media. So we tend to see the event be much bigger in those council areas. And there are also a limit to the number of spots available in those non-partner council areas. So we encourage, if you're in a non-partner council area, to jump in quick to save a spot. And just be mindful that there's less local promotion, so you may want to do a little bit more of that local area marketing. Andrew, anything else we want to cover on the questions?
If anything else has come in. No, there's just a couple more security questions that I'm answering directly in the chat.
Yeah, great.
But I think, yeah, the big one is in terms of having your successful sale here is all about obviously the caliber of the goods and the presentation, but I can't stress enough promotion, because you can have the best stuff laid out beautifully. You can be have the music on, the incredible signage, but if you haven't been successful in bringing it to the attention of the public, it may not turn out how you like. So yeah, so someone has just messaged in the chat, any big tips on what not to do, Babs? That's while I finish this.
Yeah, okay, good question. So some things not to do. The first one that's jumping into my mind is making sure that you get a plan. This is sounding like a to-do, but get a plan in place for what you don't sell. Most garage sales will sell a lot, but not everything. So don't sort of forget to think about the follow-on, and certainly don't leave any of those items that you haven't sold on the curb. We don't want you getting into any trouble. It's advisable, if you're putting signage up, to make sure you remove those. Some councils have bylaws around signage, and it's important that that's removed afterwards. Anything else on the not, Andrew?
Yeah, I think you covered those things really well in terms of just being a good member of the community and pulling down any poll posters or similar that might be put up, and leaving stuff on the curb that might then become an issue for council to remove.
Yeah, the main thing is to have fun with it. It should be a really fun day. We really encourage people to crank the tunes. Lots of people theme their sales. It's the perfect excuse. You may not think you want to know your neighbors, but it is the most perfect excuse to meet the people that have been living next door to you for many years, and have some cracking conversations with some new people.
Yeah, and I think to that end, picking up on the having fun is really important. And whether that's in what you call your garage sale, whether that's the type of signage that you might produce, We see such fun and inventive ways of people trying to draw attention to their garage sale by offering little interesting promotional hooks where people have lots and lots of fun. You know, whether it's singing songs or providing other free items or providing free snacks. It really just if you're going to get involved in the day, it's kind of one of those things you can have a lot of fun with it, and it's the human interaction that makes it special. So we warmly encourage, you get involved and have fun with it.
Yeah, and express yourselves. So obviously the ways to be involved are on screen. You can host a garage sale, you can join a group sale, or join us to shop on the trail, and the QR code there will take us to your website, to our website. We haven't covered a lot around tips today, but if you do decide to sign up, we'll be running a masterclass for sellers. So any registered seller gets invited to a special masterclass that we're hosting in early November. And it will be a little bit like this, but we've got some real big hitters. So we've got someone from PayPal talking through how that QR code stuff works in a lot more detail. And we've got an incredible woman who's hosted a garage sale, I think probably 4 years in a row, coming to join us to share her tips for how to really getting into some of the nuts and bolts around merchandising and pricing. So we've covered some of that, very briefly today. We really wanted to focus on telling you how it works and what's involved. But if you do want to join us for that masterclass, you'll get invited to that if you've signed up. Good question that's just come in. Can we sign up for the second week after the first week instead of signing up all at once? Yes, you can. So you could absolutely sign up for, let's say, the Saturday in the first weekend, decided you really enjoyed it, and then go and edit your sale and continue on the following weekend. So it's really flexible. And equally, if you signed up for weekend one and went, oh no, I'm too busy, you could easily shift that to the next weekend. If today has made you go, I don't know if I want to have a garage sale, there are other ways you can be involved. We have a series of 3 workshops happening very soon, actually, a week on Saturday. We've got some incredible people that you may well know, like Barry Dubois, who I was chatting to today, doing some really great, they're free sessions, they're only an hour long, and they're all about kind of giving you practical tips. There's one around secondhand selling, one about styling your wardrobe, and then we've got one that Barry's leading around getting to know your neighbors and connecting with your community. So they'll be really fun. They're totally free. You can register just to receive the recording, and you'll find all the details on our website. We're always here to help. So if you do, make sure you screenshot this or take a picture of this if questions pop up after today. There's great FAQs on the website, or you can get in touch with us on social media or by email. We couldn't do this event without the incredible people like you who take part. So our doors are always open for questions, feedback, anything and everything, good, bad, ugly. Stay in contact with us and let us know how we can support you. So that's it, I think, for today. Andrew, is there anything you wanted to add as final words?
Not apart from a big thank you to everyone for spending 30 minutes, 34 minutes talking garage sale trails. Get garage sales with us. So thank you very much for joining.
Absolutely. A big thank you from us. We're really pleased you're able to join us, and we'll be in touch with a recording tomorrow. Have a good evening, everyone.